last week, they were completely rammed. They were filled up to the gunnels, they were queuing down the street. They said, you should have been here last week. I swear, you should have been here last week. Oh yeah, you should have been here last week.
Hello and welcome to the Christmas edition of You Should Have Been Here Last Week, the special podcast run by myself, Steve Gribbin and Paul Ricketts, which we interview the movers and shakers and the promoters on the comedy circuit. But this time, this edition is slightly different. We've asked our fellow comedians and fellow sufferers in the Christmas wars what they think of Christmas gigs. So I hope you enjoy this special festive edition of You Should Have Been Here Last Week.
Yeah, well, we say festive, but what it's really like is Tales from the Front. That's what it's like.
It's more like festering, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like Armistice Day in the First World War.
Someone's in the corner, comics quietly playing a harmonica saying, I think it'll all be over by Christmas. and then everyone's going, do we really have to go over the top? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Off you go.
I mean, the only positive thing is, for you comics, the war is over. That's where we are at the minute.
Exactly.
So we talked to several comics, and the first question we asked them was, do you like Christmas gigs? And you're going to hear answers in this section from Alan Francis, Steve and Alan, Neil McFarlane, and Chris Kearns.
Well, what are you asking me about Christmas gigs?
Do you like them?
No.
Oh, no.
What can you say? Here we are, and it's an unmitigated joy from start to finish.
Christmas gigs are famously bad. I mean, I don't know what it is about Christmas that, it's supposed to be a time of goodwill to all men and all that, but it's actually a time of getting absolutely fucking wankered and behaving like a complete arse. That's what it is. I mean, I don't know if Jesus himself did that. I mean, I don't know if in the Bible, in the stable, the three wise men turned up utterly bloated.
It's just the League of Extraordinary Knobheads, isn't it? It's the people who've never been out and have been dragged out to a comedy night.
The reason they shouldn't happen is because a workplace will have someone who's in charge of booking events, who has the idea of doing comedy, and everyone else does not want to do comedy. But it don't matter, does it? Because the person who books it, then they turn up, they're sat there looking at you eagerly like, it's going to be funny. And the rest of that row are all sat there thinking, we wanted to go bowling.
Yeah.
That face of like, you're not bowling. There's only one of you. We want 9 others and we want to hit you with a ball.
I don't know why you would want a comedian on. I don't understand any of the entertainment around Christmas. I mean, Santa. I was in Hounslow a couple of years ago, that shopping centre in Hounslow, and there was a Santa, and he had elves. There was a Santa with elves, and I felt sorry for the Santa. I was just like, oh, there he is, this bloke doing his Santa. I mean, he was obviously an alky, and he had like round his white beard there was a massive nicotine stains. So he was like. He was no stranger to a fucking roll-up, you know what I mean? And, but I mean, I suppose, fair enough. Probably quite authentic Santa in many ways.
Basically, don't bring your best material because no one's going to hear any of it. And if you get to the end of your set and get out of town alive. But ho, ho, ho.
Like the last day of November today, really nice gig, civilized crowd. Tomorrow, Christmas madness kicks in. It could be something to do with going to Waitrose or going to the Morrisons and hearing the dulcet tones of Noddy Holder. I think that's what does it to
I'm
people.
going to say Paul McCartney.
No, that is enough to make you a murderer.
Because I heard it a lot tonight in Covent Garden. It was
simply having a wonderful Christmas. I mean, what was Paul McCartney thinking of when he wrote that?
Money.
Yeah. Simply having, when you compare it to, this is nothing to do with Christmas gigs, but John Lennon's War Is Over. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, if you want it.
It's just such a lovely piece of work. Paul McCartney's simply having. Honestly, that is awful.
Yeah.
You know, who am I to criticize Paul McCartney? He's written some brilliant songs. He's
Yes,
written
he
some
has.
fantastic
Maxwell
songs.
Silverhammer.
Well, that's. I was thinking more yesterday or something.
Well, no, you wrote that the day before.
Yeah, that's true. The day before yesterday, which was
Another day.
another day, which was a good song.
Yeah, it was a good song.
Good song. But I mean, you know, we could talk about the Beatles all night, and
No, we're talking about Christmas gigs.
yeah, Christmas gigs.
Mm.
Tough.
And the next question we asked these intrepid comedians was, why do performers do Christmas gigs? And you're going to hear from, in this order, Matt Reed, Steve N. Allen, Alan Francis, and Abigoliah Schamaun.
But the best thing is, tragically and commercially, it is bountiful. Because there's gigs on everywhere. Everyone does it at Christmas. There's a lot more gigs, and it's Christmas parties, so you can earn a little bit more over Christmas, which is always good. And some gigs, not all of them, but some gigs do put the money up, which is nice.
There's more money in those gigs, so we all do them, and it keeps the industry afloat, disappointing people on the way up to Christmas. The only thing it's better than is disappointing people just before their wedding, which is what happens when people book comedians for stag do's and head nights. But at least these days, people get married about 4 times, so it's not so bad.
The money is good. The money is good. Twice as much money for a Christmas gig as you get for a normal gig.
Yeah, but no, yeah, and then you get 3 times as much for New Year's. Huh?
Oh, God, yeah, that was... Like Jongleurs. I remember Jongleurs New Year's Eve. I never did it. But I always was jealous of comedians who did do Jongleurs New Year's Eve, because I would do Jongleurs like the weekend before, or, you know, like, and it would be a hell gig, but it was normal money. And then the people doing New Year's Eve got like treble bubble. Not double bubble.
Treble bubble.
Treble bubble.
Yeah, but you never did it, though. I mean,
I never did it.
It's like you talking about sleeping in Monroe, but
Yeah.
you didn't. You actually slept with Diana Dawes
Yeah.
the week before.
Yeah, I spent with Diana Dawes the week before, and you know, she
It
was
was still
better.
all right. She was still all right.
She was better.
The money, everyone said that already, haven't they? But it's definitely getting paid more. It's fun to see everyone too. It's fun to see all the comedians and be like, all right, guys, we're going in. Real camaraderie.
And this might sound a strange question, but the next one we asked was, what do our comedians think is the best thing about Christmas gigs? And in this section, you'll be hearing from Tom Wrigglesworth, Chris Kearns, Cerys Nelmes, Neil McFarlane, Steve N. Allen, and finally, Alan Francis.
Best thing is that they end pretty soon, actually. This is our last one.
The best thing is that, I don't know, is you might get some chocolates off the staff, and that's about it, really. So a mince pie might get thrown your way. That's a bonus. I'll take that. So yeah. So
now I mainly do a lot of gigs at the Frog and Bucket in Manchester over Christmas every year, right? And they do Christmas dinner. So I have 4 shows there. And I have a Christmas dinner every show. So by the time Christmas comes around, I then don't actually have to do turkey and pigs and blankets and stuff, because I've had about 18 of those Christmas meals already. That's my most favourite thing. If somebody does a gig and feeds me Christmas dinner, I am happy.
Yes and no. I mean, some people are having a nice time, and if they don't go over the score, then you might get you might get chatted to, and you might get some nice feedback, and you might get a drink bought for you, and you might even, get appreciated for your actual comedy. If people are, people have got their Christmas heads on, but they're not too Christmas heads on.
But when they work, they really work, because everyone is drinking because they're not out with friends that they want to be with. They're out with work colleagues. So they have to drink more, and you could have an amazing gig with those people.
I don't know if, funnily enough, the phenomenon of bad gig, I mean, it might be because I'm older and uglier and I've got more experience. I find gigs are not as bad now as they used to be. Like Christmas gigs in the 90s were horrendous. I mean, really horrendous. Whereas now I don't know, maybe it's just I'm an old git, but they don't seem as bad now somehow.
Don't worry, I'll take you to one that's terrible.
Okay, I look forward to going.
You're going to do Bournemouth with me in December the 15th?
Bournemouth on December the 15th. That sounds like something worth avoiding.
Yeah.
That sounds like worth it. In fact, December the 15th, I'm in Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously, the next question we asked them was, what is the worst thing about Christmas gigs? And we got answers from Alan Francis, Abigoliah Schamaun, Matt Reed, Cerys Nelmes, Neil McFarlane, and Tom Wrigglesworth.
Is it the audience that you despise the most?
It is. The audience, the travelling, the weather. I mean, the weather is awful, isn't it, in the winter in this country?
Yeah, but it is indoors.
Yeah, that's true.
My worst thing, the giant groups that 99% of them don't want to be at a comedy show, but one person booked in a comedy show for the freaking copywriters, and they're all trash and don't want to be there.
It's the drinking of people that don't drink. That's what it is. It's the people that don't go out and they've been forced out and they go, oh, well, what's normal for drinking? Oh, I tell you what, I'll have 2 bottles of wine before I go. No. Oh, you've done it. And you're like, it's gone through the red tape. Like, I thought you were funny. I don't know where that coming. That's the ones I don't like.
Worst would be, obviously, we all experience it, is the pissed up Christmas parties.
Yep.
What the problem is that you'll have those people out, and that's fine if it's a room full of those people, but you've still got couples and families out that are just trying to enjoy themselves. I don't mind it so much. I love a rowdy crowd, don't get me wrong, but it's when they're just ruining the night for everybody else. That's not very good, and it's such a slog for us. We're literally just up there doing our time and getting off stage, not enjoying it.
It's a works night out. Half the people who are on the works night out didn't really want to go to comedy. It's the same as stag nights, hen nights. Half the people there are like, they are under duress.
The worst thing is, we learn nothing. Every year it's a shit show. And then come the 1st of December next year, everyone decides that work parties and comedy clubs should suddenly be combined. And that's proved to be not a good idea by mid-December. By the end of December, it's absolutely confirmed. And then January, it's all forgotten. And then we go again. So the worst thing is it just keeps repeating. But the best thing is, yeah.
And finally, this is the one that we've all been waiting for. The last question was about Christmas heckles and horror stories. And quaking in their boots whilst they gave us our answers were the following: Abigoliah Schamaun, Neil McFarlane, Cerys Nelmes, Chris Kearns, Steve N. Allen, and Matt Reed.
So what's your favourite heckle?
Yes, mommy.
Oh my God.
And the heckling, is it worse at Christmas?
It's less competent. Which is bizarrely worse. But you can do a lot more with a competent heckle. And attention spans are shorter because everyone's got pissed up on shots. They don't heckle. They just talk loudly to each other. And, and you're like the guy with the microphone and the lights going, excuse me.
Last Christmas I had one where one of the acts had gone on. So they were fine with me, this big office party, 2 tables it was. They were fine with me. And then the first act they didn't get on with. And this table then turned on me to the point where one of the main men that I'd had a nice conversation with basically said, fuck off. And I went, oh no, mate, you don't tell me to fuck. You're in my house. This is Christmas. You're in my house. You do not tell me to fuck off. And I said straight away, do you know what, Steve? It was one of the fifth gigs in a run.
Yeah.
And my fucking tolerance had just snapped. I was like, security, get him out. I don't want him in here. And security just came straight away, took him straight out. Everybody's cheering because I'm like, there's no way. And then the worst thing was a female on his table said, oh, that was out of order. And I said, so you think it's acceptable for a man to tell a female to fuck off at her place of work? I said, have a word with yourself. You need to have a rethink about where you're coming from here. So on their way out, they all left then, just hit all the drinks off all the table. Like I'm talking like 20 drinks. They'd also been sick already on the floor. So, it was best rid. But yeah, don't ever tell me to fuck off when I'm 5 gigs in on a Christmas weekend.
I think it was a Christmas gig in Bournemouth, funnily enough, at the other nightclub of the same name that we're on tonight, where I had a chair thrown at me at a Christmas gig. It whistled past my ear, it bounced off the DJ box, and that was thrown by some army lads who were having their Christmas night out. Yeah, and it did have a bit of tinsel on it.
Well, I got told this story by the owner of this business, my wife, and a woman went to the bar just to show us that, and the bar was closed, and she said to the bar staff, "Which one of you cocksuckers is going to get me a drink?" And then Paula said to her, "Get out, obviously, because don't get to speak to people like that, especially young girls." I mean, that's speculation at best. Should have all done the rounds and that, but they didn't know. He didn't know that. And then the woman had the temerity to phone on the Monday and say, "I came in your venue and asked for a drink, and this young upstart, my wife, had the temerity to kind of throw it out." I said, "Look, can you describe it?" And she said, "Yeah." And then she described my wife to my wife, and she went, "Well, that was me. And what you actually said was, which one of you cocksuckers is going to get me a drink?" And she said, "Well, I just wanted a drink." I said, "Well, people don't really function like that, and that's just Christmas for me. People who think they can just treat people like shit. I've had a few drinks and they just walk into a bar, and I just thought, not only was she like so out of order, over the weekend she thought, I'm going to phone up and get someone sacked for this. That kind of main character syndrome. Yeah, it's just I just find quite disturbing.
There was one gig on the run up to Christmas, and I was really quite new at this, and I was middling at some gig. And the only thing, it wasn't a heckle really, it was an act went on, and the person running the gig said, "What do you want us to do if the crowd kicks off too much?" And between the two of them, they arranged a safe word that this act would say to kind of like stop it, and then they'd get off stage. And I'd never witnessed that before. I'd never witnessed an act need a safe word. So that was terrifying. And eventually, they didn't use the prearranged safe word. They used the phrase, "Beep this, I'm not putting up with this anymore," and walked off stage, which actually is a far more effective safe word, because it's not like you need to hide the fact you're walking off stage. They'll notice because you're not still on stage after you've done it.
I was at the Frog and Bucket a long time ago. There was a woman in the toilet a long time, and her boyfriend had been chucked out in this time because he was being a dick. And I sent a female member staff, she's been there a long time. She came out late. I was like, "What's happened?" Apparently she'd been on bad drugs. She'd been vomiting and managed to shit herself all over the floor, and she wouldn't open the door, so she got her boyfriend by, and he was pissed. He goes, "I'll climb over." They will get, "No, do not climb." Anyway, they were too late. He was up there, swan dived from the top of the cubicle into, split his head open in a pool of her shit, and they both fell over in it, so they were covered. And they came, and eventually the staff had to be very diplomatic, keep a straight face. They were going, "Yep, do you want to get? Should it be cleaned up before you go?" They'll get, "No, we just want to leave." I was like, "You probably should." They were like, "No." So they went out the back, pulled a taxi over. The taxi went, "No," drove off. She started lacing into him because she blamed him. Brilliant.
That's
Merry
a fantastic.
Christmas.
Ho ho ho!
Humbug cocksuckers.
Well, that about wraps up the festive or the festering edition of You Should Have Been Here Last Week. Very entertaining stories, really.
Well, yes, harrowing. It's the horror. That's all I can think of, like the end of Apocalypse Now. The horror. Got to mention one thing. I mean, I did see a act that posted in one of the Facebook forums saying that comedians, are always moaning about Christmas gigs and comedy in general, and saying that he had particularly a fantastic year and he's very, has a great love of comedy. And it made me think, yes, he's right. He is right. I mean, we just heard these comics moaning, and, comedy is great. We love doing it. It's enjoyable, but we are comics and we love to moan. Let's face it.
Yeah. It wouldn't be otherwise, would it? That's one of the main personality flaws that qualifies you to be a comedian in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you got low self-esteem? Check. Messianic complex? Check.
Yeah.
Love moaning.
You don't get material saying, have you noticed when everything goes wonderful, how fantastic it is? You tend not to have stuff about that, do you?
No. Very true. Yeah. And also, one of the great things about, this, it's like a purge, isn't it? So we know coming into December that gigs are going to be tough. And then you come out the other side. And of course, we've always got January to look forward to when there's fuck all gigs. And then audiences are a bit, because because they've all had too much to eat and drink and too much of their own families at Christmas, and they're all in a bad mood. So we've got that to look forward to as well, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, don't forget New Year's Eve.
Oh, yes.
A good thing to finish off this festive podcast is to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I think I'll be putting this out on Christmas Eve. So, have a wonderful Christmas.
Yes.
All our listeners, all our viewers. And, if you want to have a handy Christmas gig, perhaps force someone to subscribe to the podcast.
Yes, I'd like to second that. Merry Christmas to all the comedians out there, all the promoters. It's hands across the trenches. We're all friends.
Yeah.
And we can play a football match against each other and then get shot.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Yes, happy Christmas. And we'll see you next year. Yeah, we'll see you next 2024. See you on the other side.
Yeah.
They said you should have been here last week. I swear you should have been here last week.